It all started when I wanted to make something like the stem player. You know, the weird looking music player where you control the volume of the stems using these lines. Of course, the idea of music stems are much older than that. See, in music, stem means science, technology, wait, no. The term stem stems from how music can have multiple types of sound in it, such as bass, drums, or vocals. The idea of the stem player is that you get to play with the volume of the stems as you listen to music, letting you isolate certain instruments. Which is of course quite impractical. I mean, you won't find that many songs with separate stems like that. But it's still neat because it makes the music very dynamic. You know what else has dynamic music? Video games. Dynamic music in games simply means changing the music depending on some factors like maybe the player's health, the game progress, or a boss fight. This can be done by either changing the track entirely or adjusting the effects that are applied onto it, like reverb. Here's a couple of videos I recommend that go into more detail about this. The approach that I used was, of course, inspired by the stem player. And a few years ago I wanted to create something like that for my previous project, Find Your Wings. I first came up with some stems. Bass, drums, dramatic, and melody. Bass is bass and drums is... drums. That was quite dramatic, which has the instruments that makes the music more dramatic. And finally melody, which is basically the main instrument, usually being the piano. Now here's a bit of a problem. In the code I refer to all of these stems by their initials, but as you can see there's a duplicate. We need to change one of them. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I honestly did this because it was funny to me, but it does make a lot of sense. The dramatic stem was mostly used for synths, so changing that to S is actually a good solution. Have a listen. So the way these stems work was they would each have a short loop, like 10 to 20 seconds, and you'd be able to toggle each one of them at any time. Of course it's even better to do that at the end of the loop so it sounds complete. I feel like this fit the pace of the game quite well, but something was missing. You can toggle the stems by setting their value to 0 or 1, but what if you wanted to express yourself by setting them to 2? That's when I got another idea. Each stem could have multiple loops. For example, this track has 3 melody loops, where each loop is slightly different. So now I could change the music whenever I wanted. In the end, the system was sort of like the track starts with just the drums, then the bass and melody come in. At boss fights, the synth comes in, but the drums stop. And after the boss, if the menu comes up, the synth stops, so now it's just a melody. It's calm. And then the cycle starts again, usually with the next melody or drum track. This worked quite well, especially because the track changes every 3 cycles or so. And that's the story of how I made a music system that I find quite amusing. Get it? Like amusing, but with music. It fits the video theme and the main joke of the video, and if you're still hearing this...